Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about clay. As you can tell, I've already been kind of playing with my clay. My clay was older and it was really dried out, so I've been letting it soak in water and I got it too wet, and now I've been kind of trying to make it dry a little bit before I did this video. Now, clay comes in different flavors and different colors. Like I'm using a brown clay. You can get white clay, all kinds of different colors. You can get different types of clay. There's like a modeling clay that they make that never dries. It's an oil clay that you can't dry out. Then there's the clay that you use if you have a kiln, which I do not have a kiln on me, so I'm using this air dry clay. So the clay used for a kiln is a type of clay that whenever it's heated to a certain degree, depending on the temperature, each clay has a different heating temperature. It causes a chemical reaction, chemical change, turning the clay into pottery. This will be considered right now like greenware. It's very fragile. But whenever you would take clay and put it in a kiln, it becomes pottery. It becomes hard. It has this chemical reaction if you think about chemistry and stuff. I'm using today this air dry clay. Now, air dry clay is nice because you don't use it in the kiln, but it's not a type of clay that you really want to eat or drink out of, because you can, if it gets wet enough and soaked enough, it'll start turning back to workable clay. The air type of dry clay I'm using today is this easy to use terracotta right here. So this is a brown clay. When you're playing with clay, you can either get professional tools, which right here I have some professional clay tools. I'll take a few of these out. Maybe we'll do a few little things with them. Or you can use everyday handy dandy objects you have in your kitchen, such as a plastic knife, a fork, a spoon, wire. If you have any wire, you can use a wire. Dental floss. You'll need like a bottle to spritz, a water bottle to spritz your clay if it gets too dry. I doubt mine's going to get too dry. And you can also use a sponge to spritz it if it gets too dry. So, like I said, dental floss is a really cool thing to use. I don't remember if I said it, but clay is an additive method instead of extractive one. When you're doing sculpture and stuff, additive means you put it together, mush it together to form something. With subtractive methods, you take away. So remember, clay is a nice additive method. So if you're using a big box like this, you have a big hunk of clay, and you don't want to use all your clay at once, so you want to cut a piece of it off and wrap the other back up carefully in the bag to keep it fresh from drying out. My bag is old and it was drying out some. But you can use the dental floss to cut a piece, like if you had a piece like that, just to cut. So you could cut with the dental floss. You can scoop and take away like this with the dental floss. So the dental floss is a good tool to use to cut. Clay is a little messy. You can use this type of tool to like carve away in your clay if you need to like carve away. And these come in different sizes and stuff. If you don't have something like this, dental floss kind of works for that. But a really cool thing is if you have wire laying around, you know, if you use it for something else, if you have a type of wire, you can make a loop like this one to cut away some of whatever you want to do with your clay. So it's a really cool way, it's a cheap way, and then you can adjust the size of the loop if you want something to make it microscopic. If you had a pair of pliers or something, you could do that to help carve away from your clay. Another really cool thing about the clay is if you don't like taking it away from somewhere, you can always plop it back in. And you can use your fingers or water to help mold and smooth things out. You know, so this is kind of so I can add a little water from my pan of water over here to help make the clay more liquidy, to help smooth areas out if I want to smooth something out with this. So you can see you can use the water in your fingers like that to make areas more smooth. That's what you're wanting to do. So you can use other tools such as this fork if I wanted to make a pattern. And I mean, there's all kinds of different tools you can use besides these. These are ones I had handy in the kitchen at the time and I was thinking about. So I can use it to scrape if I want to really score into my clay, which is kind of cool. You can use a spoon to kind of like carve out if you wanted to, depending on what you want to make. You can use a knife to cut into it. Also, the knife makes a really cool scoring thing. So smooth this out a little bit. And I can use this knife to do a mark like that. So you can do cool different textures depending on what you have laying around. You can use just about anything to make a mark in your clay. And a lot of people like to play with it in their hands. Now the thing about when you're touching it with your hands is the hands kind of, because of the oils and stuff in your hands, kind of remove the water. So the more you mold with it and play with it in your hands, the more water you're removing from the clay. So it kind of will dry it out. Mine is super wet right now where I soaked it. So mine is not going to dry out very much. But this will help dry it out if you need to dry it. You can knead it, do all kinds of different things with your clay. Like I said, mine is super wet. Or I've been doing this other gilly gunk with it. So you can tell it's messy. So I have this table. This is a plastic bag that I cut up so I can mold my clay on. Like I said, if it gets too dry, you can always spritz it. But mine is not going to be too dry. My clay is very wet. So you can mold things out of it. Like maybe I'm making giant grapes, I don't know. So I can mold a bunch of these circles and make giant grapes. So connecting these, sometimes it's easier to connect them if you have either like a texture. So if I use this to kind of like score it, I'll do it on the other one too. I score it is one way to help connect things. Another way is some artists, which I have enough right here, will make like a slip, so very liquidy clay. So let's cut me up another little hunk of this. If I have this, and I want to connect these two little pieces together. If I make my clay kind of very liquidy, so if you're kind of liquidy, like a slip is what they would call this. You make like a slip where it's really liquidy. And you do that on both sides, make it really shiny, kind of liquidy. You can attach them that way. So there's different ways to help attach them if you're working in pieces. And if you don't like that, clay is very forgiving. So if you don't like something, you just smoosh it and you start working with it more. The more you work with it, it's like any other art form, the better you get at it. And also you'll notice it kind of helps when some of it dries. So whenever it gets kind of dry in certain areas, it kind of helps you be able to touch it and firm it and move it around and stuff. So think about, you know, making a base. Maybe I'm trying to make, I don't know what I'm making. I'm just playing around, experimenting with the clay. You do all kinds of different things with it. I'm just talking to you mainly today about some different ways to attach it. So let's say I make something I like that sculpture. And I like the sculpture, but something happens and it's dinner time or lunchtime or there's some emergency and you're not done with it, it's going to start drying. You can put a paper bag, or you can even use this, something to cover it up. Usually a paper bag's what best. So you can cover it up with a paper bag and it slows down the air drying process. So that comes very handy if you're doing something that you have to go. So if you have to quit work on it for a few hours or whatnot, cover it in a bag and then you can take the bag off and you spritz it. And also if you think you're going to be going for many hours, cover it with a bag and spritz it before you cover it in a bag. Just spritz it down with water or rub it down with water. I recommend spritzing it and then putting the bag over it. That'll help keep moisture in. So I hope you like this video about clay. Blah, 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 can't talk about clay. If you have any other questions, please let me know and I'll see what I can help you with. Till next time, I hope you all have a good afternoon and a good weekend. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.